Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to the Noble Mother podcast. I am so delighted to bring you another potent companion birth story today. I have Ashley Michaud here gracing us with her story medicine. She is a devoted mother of two with a unique 9-year journey between her children's all natural home births. As a single mom, she embraced the challenges of navigating Western medical expectations while staying true to her alternative lifestyle, ultimately bringing both of her babies into the world on her own terms. Without a spouse by her side, but deeply supported by sacred women's circles, Ashley also walks the path of a medicine woman, creating a life that allows her work from home while raising her children. Her story weaves resilience, trust in nature, and the power of community, offering inspiration to mothers walking unconventional paths of their own. Welcome, Ashley.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me here and for, just sharing stories, not just mine here, of women who are going through this. I think it's so powerful. It's what keeps us all connected and gives inspiration and even like strength for those other women that are maybe in a situation that struggling between going the traditional way when inside of themselves they know that waiting might be the right thing, or getting the funds together for a doula, or just being home naturally, like whatever it is. I thank you. I feel there's a lot to say on these topics.
There's so much to say, and I'm gonna just say the backdrop, you are grounded on the earth right now on this beautiful fall day. You're also in Ontario.
Yeah.
And it's just really, I think, important in this country right now and in this province to share the brave mothers who are walking that path, truly choosing traditional care, meaning like heart-led,
Yeah.
mother-led care versus the traditional regulated systems that people just see and think, oh, this is covered. And it seems holistic. So I feel like you're going to be such a wise mother walking us through your two births of your son and your daughter, and then also speaking to Claire, who you invited in to be your companion for your daughter's birth. So do you want to, I don't know, let's start from the beginning, but maybe not the beginning, and lead us through, yeah, your first pregnancy and what that system felt like to then pick the system again for your daughter and then move directions.
Yeah. So with my son, I man, it's like such a crazy journey, but I was already doing all the natural things. I had been sober for a while. I was actually told that I couldn't have kids at 21. I was going through all kinds of issues like cervical issues, PCOS. I was getting like hemorrhaging and stuff like that too when I was in college. So there was just like some medical things going on. And I decided to drop out, and I decided to get sober, and I started getting into nutrition and herbology and permaculture and like all these amazing things, and really coming back to my roots. I grew up on Crown land just outside of the native reserve. So I had all of that like in me, but also I saw how that was changing even for the indigenous. And there was a battle going on inside of me, but at the same time, I knew I had to heal myself. I knew that was my own sacred responsibility. So, as much as I was hurt by that news from the doctors that I couldn't have kids, I still took my power back and was like, okay, whether I can or can't, I still need to get healthy because I don't want to live like this. So I dropped out, and I really, I traveled a little bit, and I ended up booking a flight to South America, and I did a solo woman journey backpack. I had a 20-liter backpack. It wasn't even like a big thing like Cheryl Strayed in the wild. I had a tiny thing. I wanted to look like I was like homeless, blend in. If you have too much stuff in a place like that, sometimes you can get robbed or just end up in different situations. So I wanted to be as minimal as I could. I worked with shamans and farmers and did all the things that I could, ate from the land, learned what I could from any locals. I wasn't doing a lot of touristy stuff. I was forging my own path in that way. And when I came back from South America, it was like a call from a guy that I grew up with. Our families were very interconnected, and I felt my heart pounding. I was like, okay, this is love. I'll go home for love. And I booked in the flight and I came back and we were doing hosting ceremonies and a window park for people who were, I guess, like on their own healing journeys and showing them nature and all of these beautiful things. And I ended up pregnant and I didn't know at first. Like, at first I thought, oh my God, did I get a parasite from South America? And I was going to the doctor to just get checked up because I was just so tired. And then I found out that I was pregnant and I just smiled and I was so happy. It didn't work out with that man, but it was okay. Like I was so happy to be pregnant. I was like, this is the gift. Like honestly, like I as in weird as it sounds, because it can be a scary time, I felt very empowered. I was like, "I'm meant to do this, and I'm meant to do this on my own." And I took it as a sign that I could do more on my own and I could do it more my own way and more heart-led if he wasn't around. And that
Mm.
wasn't even that I chose to not have him there, it's that I empowered myself when he wasn't there. And I just flipped the script and I was like, okay, this is a time when my body's changing and I got to listen to this baby that's inside of me and what this baby's needs are. And I need to come back to myself and what I was doing and the mindsets that I had before I got into this relationship. I need to come back to that because that's why it is that I'm a mother. That's how it is that I healed myself. And it's not my job to change who I am in order to be a mom. It's that I'm a mom because of who I am. And so I ended up moving to Dundas, Ontario, which was the waterfall capital, is the waterfall capital of the world. But I really embraced that. And I was barefooting outside in nature. I found a couple midwives and I said, I want to have this baby in the water, in a waterfall. This is why I'm here. I'm like, I have this calling. And they're like, Ashley, you can't do that. I was like, if I can't do that, then I want the closest thing to that. What can you do? And they're like, let's plan a home birth. You got an apartment, like all of these things. So we were doing that once I was overdue for both of my children. And once I started hitting that mark, they started on me about, okay, you're going to have to go to the hospital because you haven't had a baby before. We don't know if you can do this at home. And
What's
if you're
overdue? Tell me. What? About
he was only
41?
2
Like 2
days overdue, but
Oh,
because it
Jesus.
started
Okay.
getting to that 40-week mark,
Okay.
it was so stupid.
It's so
Like,
crazy.
I know, because it was only 2 days.
Yeah.
But
Oh
a
my
week
gosh.
before that mark, they were trying to get me into the hospital, and I was like, "No." And then I started feeling the contractions on Friday the 13th, sacred day, and I kept hearing, like, all the motorcycles go by for Port Dover too because of my location, so it's quite funny. I was like, "I wonder if some people I know are, like, driving past right now and have no idea that I'm in my own journey right here, my own trip." And, yeah, so I called my birth companion. I didn't have a doula for Finn. Instead, I had a Reiki master, and she ended up being my teacher, and she just was amazing. In between she came right away before the midwives came, and she drove quite fast too because she was about 3 hours away from me, and she got there in, like, less than 2 hours, I swear. She really wanted to be a part of this birth, and she got there quite fast. And in between every contraction, she would give me Reiki and healing touch, and it really would help me get into kind of a rest mode in between. It was so helpful, so therapeutic. The midwives ended up showing up, and some of them were actually students. So there's a lot of women in the room for Finn's birth. I wanted to have a water birth with him, but I didn't order a pool because I was a single mom. I didn't have the money or resources at the time. I was a lot younger. So the plan was to be in the bathtub. They wouldn't let me go in when I wanted to because I had to be dilated a certain amount. But once I hit that dilation, I went in and I felt completely claustrophobic. The contractions got really intense from the water because I guess you relax a lot more from the heat. And I got out and I ended up on my bed and I just was moving different positions. I would rest in between contractions. I would get up on all fours, that cat cow pose to really open up. And yeah, I was so exhausted, I think, because it was a long labor. Most of the day, I'd say about 21 hours approximately that I was in labor for him. And I had all of the things I was drinking spirulina and honey, and I had a birthing aid tonic already made that had the cayenne pepper in case there would be hemorrhaging. It also had lemon and maple syrup and things. So I guess, yeah, like I had all of these things in place to help with the process. I was scared of hemorrhaging, so I made sure I had cayenne pepper on hand too because I didn't want the medical interventions. And yeah, I ended up wanting to give up at one point in time. I was like, "Oh, man, like, I can't do it anymore." I was so tired. And the midwives, they were really good in that they took my hand and they let me feel where the baby was crowning, and I felt his head, and I was got that second wind, and I was like, "Let's do this." And I got him out, and he stayed on the umbilical cord. He literally crawled up to breastfeed while still attached. So it was pretty intense in that. Like, I could feel, like, all the oxytocin coming. I could feel the connection. I could feel him. And, yeah, he breastfed right away. Then they had me stop and they cut the cord. But it was such a unique and beautiful experience. And, yeah, I breastfed on demand for until almost his 3rd birthday, so it was quite a while. I really did believe too, and I still do, that babies know more than what we do and that they're also teachers and that it's okay for them to lead. So, yeah, that was our story, or at least the beginning part of that story.
Yeah. Wow, that's really profound and really amazing how you just stood in your power of motherhood to have all those tools and resources and support around you and really make that happen, like, really witnessing you in that. And I was wondering too, did you find it was almost more of a relaxed environment, that there wasn't a partner involved with their fears so that you could step forward and really embrace those choices?
Yeah, absolutely, I do. I've read a lot of books and stories on birth as well, and a lot of stuff throughout history too. Like, I go way back to the witch trials and all that. Like, on my website, I've written articles about this stuff because I just I love it. I love knowing the beginnings to
Mm,
how we ended up where we are now and trying to mesh it all together, integrate it all. Yeah, I definitely feel that there's a reason why women are together for this time and
mm,
why they're together for their moon cycle time, why we sync up. There's all these things, and women's circles are so important. So even though I didn't know all the women that were in my circle for that birth, because some of them were students just coming in, I don't have any regrets about that, but I definitely wouldn't do that part again. I do what I did with Claire, my mom, was definitely way more intimate. So I evolved from that original experience. But at that time, I really did feel that was the way it was meant to unfold too, just women. I think there was 6 of us, including myself, so 5 additional women in the room, but it was very powerful, and because I was in my power and because I had a birthing companion that knew where my boundaries were and could hold them even when I was in that transition time, it really unfolded a really nice way. But here's the thing where it was most difficult was after the baby. And there was a few things, I guess, going and visiting the midwives before where we would bump heads a little bit, and I had to stand in my power and say, "You got to do the research on that because what I have learned versus what you're telling me out of fear is different,
mm.
and you're telling me out of fear because you were taught from a fear-based system."
That's right.
But there's more information out there, and some of it's older than you. So it's not that it's new information coming out, it's that it's old information that's been forgotten. And
Mhm.
so I would stand in that. But after Finn was born, the vaccine topics came in, the eye ointment came in, the vitamin K shots came in, all of these things. And I would have to say, go before I say yes, I'm not saying no, because I know that you paid a lot of money for your certificate. So I'm not dismissing what you're saying. I have respect for you and all the work and money and years that you put into this and experience. But until I have a pamphlet saying what's in that we we know what it is and we look into the ingredients, I will not say yes. So that's where I held my boundary. I tried to have respect. But by the time they found the information, read the information, they agreed with me. And so there was a
Mhm.
type of unity that came from it because I approached it from a place of respect. And I also honored that they have invested time and money and that it's a fear-based system.
Good for
Uh,
you. Wow. That's really that's such a wholehearted and whole person approach instead of allowing your triggers and your biases to you're working in unity, which takes a lot of growth from a human. And it's so also hard to have that mother have to hold that. Like but it's so brave and so amazing for you to share that. And Finn's so lucky. So did you decline the Pitocin and the erythromycin?
all of
And
it,
yeah, and so he wasn't exposed to any of those things. And
none of it.
nursed on him until he was 3, and you were a single mom, and you were
Yeah.
moving through those processes of just you and Finn. Wow.
Yeah, and I raced in on my own for the first 7 years, and we travel, we did amazing things. I homeschooled him too and road school as well. We did so much growing together, him and me,
Yeah.
and he taught me how to slow down and how to, like, enjoy and be a kid and all of those things again. It's so there was a lot there. Like, we went to Nevada, like, looking for aliens, and we went to California and all of the West Coast through Oregon and BC looking for Bigfoot, like, just really cool things that we were able to do because I still made that choice to own my role as a single mom. Because
Mhm.
even when you look at, like, old stories of goddesses and things like that, or like old times throughout history, it's like a lot of the time men would go off to war or work, and it was women.
Mm.
And it wasn't a single woman, it was a community of women. But this is the modern age, and sometimes that does mean solitude because there are other resources around where we're not so secluded, even if we are single, if that makes sense. I think
Yeah.
back in the like with tech, we can access a lot of things where
Yeah.
we don't have to be fully alone. I can connect with women all over the world that have the same viewpoint, even though they're not my neighbors.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. That's so beautiful. Wow. You and Finn had your adventures, and then you became pregnant with your daughter.
Yeah, I met a man, fell in love. It was not expected because in our travels, we met a lot of people, and there's like many of them attractive or had resources and skills that would be really helpful to a single family. But there was something special about this guy. There's a lot of shooting stars, literally, not just metaphorically. There's a lot of stuff that was happening. And then, of course, what melted my heart the most was Finn saying, I love this guy. And I was like, oh, wow, there's a consideration of love outside of like our little circle. And he opened me up in that. And we made space for this man in our lives. And I became pregnant with Riley. And yeah, it was quite beautiful. Unfortunately, that fizzled out too. There was some obstacles that we weren't able to get through together because life it's challenging and
Mhm.
things come up and it's not always in our control and some people can grow through it and some people get crushed by it.
Yeah.
And we ended up in a situation where it was just that there was a failure and we didn't do our due diligence when we found a place to live and be on a farm, and they said, "Oh, we're a family farm," and all the right things, but we didn't do our due diligence to look into it, and this couple that was owned the family farm, they had 14 non-disclosure agreements, NDAs, against them. So that means that 14 other families have gone there to work for them and failed similar ways and weren't able to talk about their experience because of a court ruling. So we didn't know that at the time. And my partner really felt like he had failed us as a family. And then knowing that I was pregnant on top of that, it was just a lot of pressure. And so I had to stand up and do do it on my own, but I already had the experience and that was okay. And again, like I wasn't taking the children away from him. It was like his decision for us to go and come back to Canada. And if he hasn't met Riley either, we still talk like consistently and everything. And I know it breaks his heart, but he also says all the time, like, this was the best decision. It was the right thing to do. And that it's got to take a lot for a man to be able to do that, especially a man who can be crushed by failure in that way and be sensitive in these other ways. Yeah, it's like it's heartbreaking in one sense, but in the other sense, I'm so proud of me and Finn for being able to do this again and to be able to transform, grow through what we go through instead of letting situations get the best of us. Instead of just have that attitude of, "Oh, plot twist. Where do we go now?" And find the humor in it and build our strength back up. And yeah, so we came back to Canada from California. We went from the mountains to the ocean first, and that's when we made the decision of, do we stay together or do we separate? And yeah, so Finn and I did another trip uh, from coast to coast, from California to East Coast here in Canada. I contacted Claire en route. And I was because when I was in California, I saw how cool is it that doulas are paid for by the government. And not only that, but you can have a doula and midwife paid for by the government in California. So a lot of people aren't big on California law and legislation and all that, but I thought that was really great. Not only that, but California is also a sanctuary state. So me not being a citizen of USA, I was able to stay there without the fear of deportation or having my children taken away or fear of having to pay thousands upon thousands of dollars to birth a baby. But then the decision to come back to Canada, I still had doula going through my head, which was such a blessing because I found Claire right away. I knew what the fee was going to be. I knew that it would be out of pocket, but there was something inside of me that was like, this is the way I have to do it. And so I just went for it. I set up the appointment with her. But at the same time, I also started looking for midwives because I had it in my mind. Midwives work last time. Let's go for a whole team approach here. But the more that I worked with the midwives, the more I realized it just wasn't in alignment and how much
Where
of a
were you at
blessing it
this
was.
time in Ontario?
In Durham
In
region, in
Durham,
Oshawa. Yeah.
okay, yeah, okay.
So there's a few different midwives that you can choose from that are there, but not a lot of doula or free birthing choices. And the midwives in that 9-year gap between my son and my daughter, midwives went way more medical. Like they were already medical on me about stuff 9 years before, but they were on me. I was high risk, that I was a geriatric pregnancy because of my age, that just so many things that were fear-based right off the bat. And then they always wanted to do testing. They weren't comfortable with doing a home birth because of my age and that there could be risk. So they had me go see OBGYN. Riley ended up being breech for a duration of the pregnancy. So they wanted me scheduling a C-section, which I wouldn't do. I just kept saying no. And even like the OBGYN was on me about that and doing an ECV, which means that they manually flip and rotate the baby. And I just wasn't for it. And I would get a lot of attitude for saying no or for saying, my go-to line, which I learned from Claire, was, I'm a slow cooker. I'm not an easy bake oven. Just let me do my motherly thing. And I stood in that affirmation for the duration of the pregnancy. And Riley was 2 weeks late instead of 2 days. They were really on me about that too. I had to keep going for ultrasounds and things like that. And she didn't like them. By she, Riley didn't like doing the ultrasounds, but I also wanted to know like where she's at because the fear started getting to me. It entered my protection bubble. I did let the fear in a little bit,
They
but I
infiltrate
also
hard. They
Yeah,
infiltrate really, especially if
they
you're
make you feel
engaging
so
with them.
guilty.
If you don't engage with them and you just hire a companion like Claire off the get-go and you work through those things just intimately, but when you're including in that third party, that midwifery, it's hard to tune it out. It's very difficult. They
Yeah,
start
and they do it
infiltrating.
all the time. They do it all the time, so they're really good. If
They're
you
so
think
good.
the the health institution is funded by Big Pharma, and Big Pharma is a bunch of salespeople, and salespeople are the easiest people to be sold to, which is why they're so good at their job because they believe it's so hardcore. So the whole system is literally so fear based, and they're really big on hitting those guilt and shame centers and the fear centers. It is so hard. Even though I was so successful and loved my pregnancy and my birth with Ben, Riley was much different. I did let it in, and I knew better than to let the medical system in. Like, I was writing all these articles, I was reading all of the books, I was doing on my own, like, adventure of pilgrimage, even though it was like more through the books than through history. But yeah,
How was Claire holding you in that time? Was she just allowing you to express what you thought, honoring you going back in and navigating that place?
yeah, she never once told me, "Don't talk to the midwives," or "Don't talk to
No,
the OB/GYN."
no.
She held space for me in doing that, but also whenever they would scare me, I would call her, and even if she had to pull over on the side of the road, she would pick up my call or call me back and say, "Just let me express my fears," and then she would say, "Okay, now that you got that out, like, how do you feel now? What do you want to do now? What do you feel is right now?" And then we would spend more time talking about that than the fear. But she always let me get it out first, whatever it is that they said, whatever it is that I felt because of what they said. And then she would ask me questions that would center me back into who I am.
Mm,
But not only was she a doula, but she was like also like such a great coach and companion. She
yeah.
was just amazing in those ways. And she always held the space.
And brought you back
She
to your
even
truth, your
oh
mothering
my god.
heart. Like, that's not what those systems are doing. That's why these companions walking this path is so pivotal because it's bringing a mother back to their center,
Yeah. Yeah, and she
whatever that
never
truth
judged
might
me
be.
for having the other systems in
Yeah,
place.
yeah.
And I don't even know why me, like, being who I am felt like I needed to have those, but it's once I was already invested in it, it was harder not to because it's like I already made the decision. Now I just got to see it out till the end. But when it came to the actual birth, and now we're talking like me being 2 weeks late, I
Is
was
Riley still
pre-birth most of
breech?
that time.
Okay.
Yeah, she was until pretty much the end. But something told me inside of myself, I was like, I already had a baby in there. Now there's just more room for her. I felt her moving. Even though they were telling me she's going to run out of room, I was like, no, she's moving. There's still room for her. And I already had a baby in this womb before. So there's even more room. And if I need to
Mm,
make more room, there will be more room.
there
I'll
will
keep
be.
growing.
And
I
also,
just,
she was probably turned upside down because of the environment and the energy that was infiltrating your heart, likely in some ways.
yeah, and that she just wasn't ready until she was ready.
That's right.
She would even now, like, being just a breastfed baby, like, she's a larger baby than my son. Being a female versus a male, it doesn't matter. Like, she's bigger, and she needed that extra time and that extra fat and the extra nutrients and
Because she will carry
but
life one day.
yeah,
She will do a
yeah,
completely different task than your son will do. Yeah, makes total sense.
yeah, and she was with me through all of it. I started looking it up because all that fear was there with the C-section, and it wasn't I knew I wasn't gonna schedule one, but there was that fear of, "What if I have to get to the hospital?" And that's what it is that they do. So I started looking into what is a C-section? What is that? What are the drugs that they give? And I need to be transparent here. I have spent a huge portion of my life getting people off of drugs and off of pharmaceutical drugs. And when I found out that they put fentanyl in the injection that they use, before the C-section, I just couldn't believe it. I was like, "There's no way I can let that into my body," and maybe that's why I had the Western system and the new traditional system in my surroundings at that time, is so that I could see how much that's evolved, and because, like, I just couldn't believe some of the stuff they're doing to these women, because I couldn't imagine, once I found out that it was fentanyl in the injection, whether or not it hits, or whether or not it actually gets to the baby through the blood barrier system, because they say that it doesn't and it's not gonna affect the baby. But no matter what, it's affecting that mother and that
Mm,
connection between mother and daughter.
mhm.
And one of the reasons why, once you have an intervention, it starts cascading into more and more interventions, is because that connection between mother and child is severed. Now the baby has to carry all that weight. Now the baby has to do all that work. And it's never meant for it to just be one.
Yeah.
It is the mother and that child. And they are so connected. Like, I was so connected with Riley. It's unbelievable. I was really connected with my son too, but I didn't have the same influence and the same fears as I did with Riley. And I couldn't imagine being disconnected from her and her going through all of that on her own. So I didn't. I did the research because I wanted to know. And the more that I knew, the more I was more confidence that I was building in my decision. And by the time it actually came to the birth, I called Claire because I knew that my water had broke, and this was 3 days before the actual birth. So I was in I forget what they call that. It was like pre-something labor,
Preterm.
pre-imminent
Pre Oh,
labor or
okay.
something like that. So I
Preterm.
was
Yes.
in labor, but it was just very mild. So at night I would get contractions. During the day, I would feel pretty much normal, and sometimes have, like, crazy amounts of energy, and
Right.
sometimes I'd be more tired and get the contractions closer to night, and
I
I called Claire and talked to her about that,
about
so
it.
yeah.
Sorry, Ashley. Sorry, I'm bringing us back to this. The water's opening and no one knows, but I'm curious. Where do you like to do your research? Because you feel very research oriented, but in a very sacred and intentional way. Because you can get on research and it can. Do you think it was your energy that drove you to the information that was brought forth to you? Or do you like actually have good, cool, different ways that you like to access all this research?
Yeah, so books were just popping out to
Yeah.
me when I go to
Okay.
reuse stores, when I would go to the library, and different libraries too, the
Yeah. So
libraries
you
that
weren't
are in the
Googling,
Midwest.
you were using actual books and text and wisdom that was written and divinely pointed you in that direction to read.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I would pick
Cool.
up anything
I
that
love
showed
that.
itself to me. But this being said, when something really hit me and I wanted to go deeper, I would
Mhm.
stop reading and then I would start Googling or get
Okay.
on the AI like ChatGPT or different things. And I would want to know more details. I was also doing research into the witch trials in Europe. I had already been to Salem, Massachusetts with my son for a Halloween. So we knew the history of them in the Americas, but I didn't know all the stuff in Europe. So when I was started looking into midwifery back in the day, how it started, like, those midwives would be so disappointed in how their name is tarnished now. All that work that they've done is now gone medical. That's the same issues that happen with the medical system. And most of those women that started midwifery would probably be so disappointed in how it's transformed. And that broke my heart. But at the same time, I was like, look at doulas have come out of this, and birthing companions. And I was like so honored by that, and to be with Claire and like walking with her in that. And also I'll say too, like my mom, I was living with her at the time of the last 3 months that I was pregnant with Riley plus the birth. And so my mom, she was really scared. She's like, "Here's breech birth," and she's like, "So many women have died from that." And my mom's a big reader too. So she was exposed to all this stuff about all the death that had happened because of breech birth. And she was bringing in her own fears and things too. But then she saw how I was in my power and started coming to appointments and hearing that I was asking questions. not just sharing the information that I had. She knew I was doing all the research and that I had it, but I also held back what I knew to ask questions for more information. And so she learned a lot about how to, I guess, that it's not confrontational. It's more about filling your cup and then expressing it later when you have all of the information. And because she was coming to the meetings and seeing all of that, she started opening up more too. And then she was asking Claire more questions and all that and diving into research herself. But
Cool. Really reclaiming that for her too. Wow, and it's so cool that it was your mom, you, and your daughter. So at that point, you're pregnant with a girl. That's so special. Oh, I got goosebumps.
yeah, and she was not there for Finn's birth at all. She didn't even meet Finn until Finn was like 3 years old.
Wow,
So
that's
yeah,
so interesting. Wow.
yeah. So for her to
Gosh,
be
it's
such a
so
part of my daughter's birth, it was definitely in the stars. It wasn't
yeah,
something that we planned. It was
yeah,
something that was meant to happen.
yeah. Oh, everything is divinely orchestrated. So your water's open and you're 42 weeks and 3 days or something, or what are you, 40?
I guess I was about 42 weeks or maybe like 41 and 6 days, something like that.
Yep.
But I was somewhere in there. I don't know the exact, but I did message Claire and I was like, I'm pretty sure my water broke. Some of the pressure is gone. But I didn't feel the full burst or anything. And she's okay, just keep an eye on it. Let me know how it goes. And then she checked in on me the next day and I was like, no, nothing's happened yet. It hasn't changed. And then the next day she checked in on me and I was like, no, everything is still the same. And then my cousin, she messaged me and she said, just wanted to see if Finn wanted to come for a sleepover. Chance really misses him. And so she came and picked up my son, brought him out of the house, I guess like maybe 10:30 or something in the morning. By 11, my water burst completely. So I guess I had to get all the men out of the house, but including my son, to do this. It was supposed to be an all women thing because as soon as he was gone, my contractions increased. I was definitely hitting that transition phase. The water's fully burst. I called Claire to get the pool all set up. By the time the pool was set up and I got in it, like Riley was born within 30 to 40 minutes. It was so fast, so intense. My body knew exactly what to do, what poses to be in. I was like in goddess pose in the pool, like fully open. Like it was so intense. Like I can't even explain what was happening, but my body knew. Like I felt Riley crowning. I felt everything the whole time, and I was more secure with going down there and feeling everything than I was with my son. With my son, I was like, oh, I'll just let them do everything. I didn't feel until my hands were put there.
Mm.
With Riley, I was feeling the whole time. I'm like, what's happening? Like, where am I? Where is she? What's happening? I will, oh man, like I will say this about the midwives too, is that they were very concerned. They're like, if you're having a doula there, I think that there's just going to be too many people in the room. And I was like, I had like students and stuff in my first one. There's not going to be too many people in the room. And then I realized what they really want is to catch the baby because then that started coming out. And I'll be honest too, like one of the midwives that I had as part of my team, one of them used to work for the midwives that worked with me in Dundas. So she knew my team there, and we were able to talk about the first birth because she knew the people. The other one, I think, was a salesperson for the hospital because all she ever talked about was how good the hospital was. Everybody in her family had the baby at that hospital. It's just such a good hospital. And that's all she ever talked about and was like very fear motivated that if we don't have the baby in the hospital, which is the best place ever, that there's going to be an issue. And then the third one didn't have baby at all. She has never been pregnant, never had a kid or anything. And she was the one that really desperately wanted to catch the baby. And I get that. But I was like, no, this is my baby. If anybody's catching the baby, it's me. And if it's not me, my mom's there. And Claire never once was like, my job's to catch the baby. She's you're going to grab this baby, Ashley, and you are going to bring her up and you're gonna give her a breath and all that. And that's exactly what happened. Is that once, like, I felt Riley coming, I felt myself completely open up like a flower. Like, it was insane. They call it crowning, but I saw it as like those big, beautiful, like a
An
growth,
orgasmic
or oh my
growth
God, it was like
expansion.
it was, and just these layers of my, like, intimate, sacred, sexual parts were, like, just, like, blossoming, opening up in, like, layers and levels that, like, I never would have imagined. And then I felt her head, and I gave that other push, and then she came, and I caught her, and I was so scared that she wasn't breathing or crying, and Claire was like, "This is when you give her the kiss." And as soon as I touched my mouth to her, she, like, it started, like, coming to life. It was incredible, amazing,
Mhm.
thing. I can't even put words to it. It's like taking a picture of a mountain or a waterfall.
Mhm.
It's nothing compared to seeing it or experiencing it. It can be the most beautiful picture, and what I'm sharing with you is my energy and passion around this and my experience, but it's nothing like actually experiencing it or being there. It was incredible. And Claire took some pictures. I'm I've been a bit of an influencer in my career and things like that. There was like that talk about, do you want me to video or anything? And I was like, just like in sacred ceremony, there can't be a camera in it. I was like, I don't want it videoed. I know there's a lot of people that would love to see this, but I just can't. But I am also very grateful that Claire took the pictures that she did, because my mom was there, like, holding me, and her and I have had a very dynamic relationship in our life, and that is something that we will always have. And she may not be around for so much longer, and she may not be the biggest part of Riley's life, but we had that moment together, and it's been captured for lifetimes. And so I'm glad that was there, and that we were, like, she was able to step back and give us that gift. But also, I also, it wasn't my intention to have any cameras or things involved, but yeah, everything happens for a reason.
Mhm.
And there's a part of me that's like, man, if we would have videotaped that, imagine how many people could feel empowered. Could you see, like, the hypnobirthing videos and, like, all these things on YouTube now, like Ellen Fisher, like, sharing her,
Mhm.
like, 5 births and all natural. And there's all of these things, but yeah, I'm also grateful that it's in my heart and
Yeah,
that, yeah.
and that's where it's kept. I know, I feel that way too. I don't have any either of my births on video. They come just so quickly. My husband almost just makes it back in the room, but it's a sacred thing that's held in my heart. And then sometimes I'll zoom in on the pictures, like I'll think, about those moments because it is so special. But I know I hear what you're saying in that dichotomy of things. I don't know if I'd set up a camera either if I was blessed with another baby, to be honest, because yeah, there is something so sacred in that portal that you move through. And oh, I was, like, crying, I'm, like, weeping, this is so beautiful, and you also I didn't wanna stop the story, but you hit on something really profound, and I don't think many will gloss over this, but that team of midwives you said, those 3, I think that's the perfect pair in what's happening in this regulated midwifery. You have the salesperson for the hospital, you have a student, this maiden who's never mothered or held baby in a womb, and the wise, like, tender-hearted midwife with experience, but still choosing to be in a system. And everyone always hopes to get that one, and that never happens. So they get left with either the maiden or the salesperson for the hospital. And it turns out to be not so super ideal.
Yeah, and I did stop talking to them because of that. Once I knew that it was all about catching the baby, and that was, like, a huge
Yeah. Oh
concern.
my gosh.
Like, it's so silly because, like, obviously their concern is, I don't mean to gloss over that either. Like, they are really scared that there's gonna be an issue on their hands and that they're not prepared for it, or that you're gonna get to a hospital and need a C-section and it's gonna be emergency and they're not gonna be equipped for it. Like, they are also scared that there's gonna be an issue, but there's not usually any
An
issue.
issue.
Like,
No,
our
you
bodies have been doing this for so long,
yeah.
and there are so many additional resources now that weren't there back in the day. And if you do need an intervention, trust me, it's there. And people
It's
are just
there and
waiting to
they're
give it to you.
waiting to give it to you. And it's like, it's covered and free. But like, for the most part, women that are nourishing themselves and washing their hands regularly, working through some of their emotional parts, it's a very powerful and enlightening and natural physiological experience. And it's not to gloss over those things that if there are presenting factors. But I have women share their stories here with companions where there were things present, and also in my own births where there could be speculation. Maybe there's something else. But generally, it's come back to an emotional component. It's come back to something that needed to be felt or seen, and sometimes just access the system to gather some information and then come back to motherhood again and move from that place. Yeah, no birth is the same, no pregnancy is the same, but what is the same is the heart and the connection. And like you said, that kiss when Claire's, now you get to kiss her, like, just talk about removing ego from the room. Talk about removing that fear, that, oh my gosh, because let's talk about the fact that there are people with all the bells and whistles and babies die.
Yeah.
They're not able to get to it. And mothers are dying as well currently
Yeah,
right
and that
now.
happens
So
more in the hospital than it does
at
at
home.
home.
Yeah.
And I think it's because the environment is so stressful. One thing that really stressed me out too was, what if I have to put my kid in the car seat and drive around?
I know that was mine
I was
too.
like,
I'm like, I don't even know how to do a car seat with my first. I just want to sit in bed. Like, give me a few weeks to look at YouTube video and how a car seat. People want to like click type them in. I'm like, no, that looks horrifying.
I didn't even put a car seat in
No.
until a month later.
Yeah, I couldn't
had to
even
go see the midwives.
Yeah, I know. It's wild. They don't even fit in them. It's beyond wild. Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't interested in that with either one of them. I was like, it's just going to be stress. What I got to do instead is lay there with my baby
And
and
eat.
learn who my baby is.
And
yeah,
breastfeed and
feed. Yeah,
and cuddle.
and feed and skin
Gosh.
and all of the things. And I got to relax and I got to choose, do I have a visitor today or do I close my door and let them talk to somebody else?
And there's such power in that time. I know women, it can be a ragged time if that support isn't there, but really, and I've talked about it on the podcast too, around the luxuries that, not even luxuries, the nourishments that can be set up in such a wise and potent time of sitting in and getting to know your baby and yourself and nourishing your body to come back into sometimes motherhood that can feel a bit depleted and lack of support. So it is so important to take that time and really sit in and, oh man, you are
And it
just
should be like weeks or months
weeks.
even. There's a fourth trimester. Not everybody talks about that. That's the 3 months after. And I think it's even longer than that, especially
Absolutely.
if you're older. I never thought of myself as somebody who was aging or getting old. Sure, I have the crown because I'm like, as much as I'm a mother, I'm also an old soul and got that crone thing going when it comes to the maiden mother and crone. I got that Hecate thing going. But like, I never thought of myself as aging until this pregnancy when they were saying high risk. And what else were they saying? Like geriatric pregnancy and like all these things. That was the first time when I was like, wow, I'm being called old and it's not by like kids. And when the kids say something about my gray hair, I'm like, oh, each one has a story. Sit around. I'll tell you about it. So these were like real, like scared women that are like, you're old. And I was like, okay, whatever.
Wait, let's put your age here. If you're okay.
Yeah, 38. So I'm not even like in my.
Oh my
gosh.
So you would have been,
like, with
your daughter's a year and a half, you would have been 35 or 36.
My daughter. Yeah, I was at 36 this Friday.
That's how old I was with my first child.
I was 27 with Ben, but yeah.
Oh, I know. Isn't it just wild to even think that? So they want to call us old and they want to catch our babies and they want to drug us with fentanyl. Okay.
Yeah,
I guess we'll be moving on then.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy.
Not even to dumb it down like that, but it is just.
And it's injected right in your spine. How does that not cross the barrier? And I had a talk with Slayer about this because she, as much as she doesn't want to be in the hospital, if one of her birthing mothers ends up in the hospital, she's still going to be there and hold your hand. She's not just going to drop you off at the hospital and be like, here, you deal with it,
No,
you know?
absolutely.
So she has seen babies born in the hospital, and she straight up says that sometimes it takes a month before that baby like fully comes to. They'll be really lethargic for the first weeks or months. Sometimes like the parents will be like, oh, this is like a really well behaved baby, but then a month in, the baby's screaming and crying. But that could be a withdrawal thing. That could be that they were numbed out and it takes so long for the drugs to get out of their system that they can't be fully themselves until 3 weeks, 4 weeks after. And that is just
This
absolutely
is
crazy to me.
so
And that is
crazy.
also not scientifically proven, but just,
But let's look
a
at
witnessed experience and insight and maybe opinion. But let's not dismiss it because it's real evidence.
and Claire has been walking through in hospitals in that role for many years.
Yeah.
So she's seen the trajectory of what they've started to introduce too, and they mix up cocktails. She's been in this long enough to
Yeah.
understand and starts piecing these things together.
Yeah.
And that's where story comes in to be so important. I remember when I birthed my son Finn, I have a Finn
Oh,
too,
that
and
sounds great.
his placenta, no one had come yet. I had a companion Jen, and I could feel my placenta, my afterbirth coming, but big clots came out first. And I was like, I did not have this with Noble. My first son was born April of 2020 before there were any vaccinations or shedding and all of that stuff. But then Finn was born 2023. And I had talked to my companion and she said, we're seeing this a lot, like stickiness from shedding of what is being exposed to in mass amounts of COVID vaccinations. I didn't do that, just being in this atmosphere of it around. And it was really quite I'm glad I had someone to talk to me about them seeing this often now with mothers that are around people that are vaccinated because it was crazy. And then my placenta came out beautiful, but it was very odd.
I see your placenta behind
I
you.
have
The
I
print.
have 2
They're
of them.
beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Did you do placenta prints?
Yeah, I did that too. And Claire's daughter did the encapsulation and turned the umbilical cord from the placenta into this dried out love symbol. That's a really beautiful keepsake. And also they took some of the lining from placenta, froze it so that I could use it for healing because there's stem cells in there. And there is a lot of healing that needs to be done for the mom. And this is like one of the things too, where I think age does come in a little bit. Cause as I was saying, like I never thought of myself as getting older. Like I really didn't. But this pregnancy was different. Like I did need additional healing, even carrying Riley. Like, yeah, she is a heavier baby, but also my body is not what it used to be. And I'm grateful that she's helping me build muscles because that's going to help my bones as I do age as a woman. Because that's like a real issue. And the more muscle you have, the less bone loss that you'll have. I'm grateful for that, but that doesn't mean that it's any easier. And yeah, I was grateful for the encapsulation. I was grateful for the lining to help with that healing
Mm.
too,
You put it in your
in those
underwear,
areas.
like, to help with any sort of tearing? Is that what you used it for?
Yeah, so I did do the padsicles, which is just like witch hazel and aloe, and because I do reusable pads already for my menstrual cycle, I just would load it up on there, and then what I would do is take the lining and I'd put it on top, so it would stick to me and fold up in these different ways, but I'd always just thought it's gonna go where it needs to go and do its thing, and
Yeah.
then the pad itself would hold everything else in place and hit all those areas.
Mhm.
It wasn't, and so that was kinda like my remedy that I did. I had a
Beautiful.
couple of pieces, left over that I'm actually gonna plant with a tree here in the fall because that's when you do trees, they give all their energy to the roots in the fall. We'll
Mm.
put the rest of the placenta there, and then the roots can dig in and we'll have a nice, beautiful tree that'll remind us of Riley too. And I did a very similar thing with Finn, only I didn't have his placenta encapsulated or imprinted or anything. I did make them keep it, so I had it frozen in a bowl until the ground thawed, and then I went up to a waterfall that I love, Webster's Falls, and I saw a baby cedar and I dug around the roots and I planted it there in this like secret little path. I probably looked like I was burying a body that day because I been attached to me and a shovel and I'm going into a protected area. But whatever, like I did what I did. It was like 6 a.m. Nobody followed me, but
That's so beautiful.
yeah,
What a great spot for Finn's placenta.
yeah.
Oh, Ashley, I could just talk to you forever. I just feel like meeting a sister. What has happened this morning? It's been
As you say this, it's 12:12 here too. That's
it
a good
was
number. Yeah, it
mm,
really is. That was like meant to be said in that moment. I feel it too.
yeah,
I really
no, I
do.
feel it. I feel it. And thank you, Claire, and all the companions who are out in Ontario and in Canada doing this work and showing up for the mothers and the women and healing lineages, really. And I feel like Claire, I had another woman on the podcast share her companion story. She had Claire. It was Beck's story, and Beck's mother was also very much involved. And Beck had a daughter, Addie, and her mother learned so much and worked through so much with Claire also in this process of Beck giving birth. And so this is so special and so sacred what is happening here. And kudos to you for choosing that, investing in it because it is out of pocket. And it's such a wise and
I would have
beautiful.
paid triple, quadruple. Like I'll say that now, Claire, you're charging too little. Like I know why
Mhm.
she does, but she's worth so much more.
Yeah. You
Like
can't put it
honestly,
into a dollar amount.
no.
It's
And I got like everything, the whole package, everything that she offered, I paid for. I was like, and I now that I've had the experience with her, like I really would have paid so much more. It's but she does make it affordable because there is a lot of immigrants here that can't do it in the hospital. There's a lot of people who've had really traumatic first
yeah.
births
Yeah.
and so now want to do it at home, but really can't afford it. And that's why they didn't even trust their gut the first time. They just went for the value. But now they're valuing their experience more than money. And
That's
so
right.
there's
You can make it work, and there are different payment plans I think some companions work off of. And there's different ways to be in that. Thank you, Ashley, for coming on today. Tell us more. How can people reach you? If there's anything else more in your heart you kind of want to share on this episode for the women and the mothers, and yeah, where people can reach you and where you're at.
Yeah, my name's Ashley Michaud. My website is www.elementalgrowth.org, like elements and then growth.
Mm,
And I established my business in 2017, but I've been doing medicine work for over 20 years. I really love it. I love, even though I work with men and women and sometimes even children, because I'm certified in nutrition and herbology and things. So sometimes, there are those times when I'll help out like whole families. But I really do love this women work. And I write a lot of articles. I love to write. I've published a couple books. And the articles I was sharing here about stuff that I learned about the witch trials and midwifery and all of that, and just really weird things like the ultrasound being invented from the Titanic. Like that's how they came out with that machine was to find shipwreckage. And now they use it medically. Like just really weird things like that I found out that stick with you. And like the C-section being like invented because of Julius Caesar, like just really weird things. Like I share all of that in articles at elementalgrowth.org in the library of information. So yeah, definitely head over there and yeah, check out what I've got. All my contact information is there too. I'm not big on social media. Instead, I'm big on connecting here in the forest and with my kids
cool.
and with myself. I like if you send me a message, I will eventually find it and get to you, but I'm like more traditional in the sense of just use the phone or yeah, text me something. So yeah, we'll connect that way or yeah, whatever's meant to be. I think we always find our way with the people that we're meant to connect with. And yeah, we did, all through
Absolutely.
word of mouth.
I will put Ashley's website in the show notes, and also I put this call out to Claire because there are some companions who are really active and a lot of their stories are in the series. And Claire is just such a beautiful walking example of someone in service. And she had posted she had some really beautiful births. And I think she reached out to those mothers, but none of them reached out. But you were like, yeah, I'll happily share. So I'm so glad because I can appreciate some people aren't open to sharing, but I'm really appreciative to the mothers who do want to share and share this work that's being done, the work that you are doing and that you have done in your pregnancies and birth, and not keeping it so tight to us, because especially in this country where that is how so many things are run in Canada and in Ontario. So it just feels really special. And I'm just so grateful to connect with you
Yeah,
on
yeah,
this
thank
really
you.
sacred day. And this was the
It is.
most beautiful Saturday connection and episodes to air for the mothers and the families.
Thank you so much. I think if I'm gonna leave anybody with anything, I just want to say, look, it was really hard for me to stand my ground, even as somebody who studied nutrition. I know the ins and outs of the medical system. That's why I chose nutrition. I'm like 21 credits away from a PhD, but I chose to stay in nutrition, to study holistic hormone health, to study permaculture and herbology and these kinds of things instead of getting into the medical system. And it was hard for me to say no to the midwives. It was hard for me to say no to an OBGYN, to say no to a hospital, even though in my regular life, I say no to it all the time. I help people get off of medication. This is like who I am. It's not a fad for me. It's like my
What
walking,
you're living.
talking life, my
Yeah.
my being. So it's hard. I wanna say it's hard, but you can do it, like, and you're not alone, so find other people, use the technology and resources available to find other women who have already done it or who are in the middle of doing it and build a circle on that. Women's circles are so empowering, even if it's by distance. If it was in person, would be so much better, but we don't always have that luxury. So find what you have and just build from there because it is hard. Like maybe I made it sound easy, but it wasn't. There was those times when like I really had to keep the fear at bay, where I really had to sit and build a protective bubble. And I had people that were in my corner and I already had experience from doing it before.
Thank you for naming that. I think that is really important for women to come back to and not feel like it was just from this place of trust and moving through so effortlessly. Like it's not. It's definitely a sitting in the mud, really rocking back and forth through those that inner conflict. And we have all been very indoctrinated. So it does creep in. Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
I thank you so much, Victoria.
Thank you, Ashley. This was just so divinely timed. And I know that as we're coming into fall, and like you said, it's when the trees like receive the most nutrients, it feels really awesome to be putting this episode out when this time, if there's women even newly like percolating pregnant or maybe like on the precipice of it, I think there's really like settling growth and roots and in so much in this for women to steep into and learn from. So thank you for coming on.
Thank you too.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. It's such a joy to bring this companion series and these women and the work that companions are doing out into the atmosphere, the space, the world, the energy. So thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Ashley. We'll see you on the next episode, everybody.